a report which was published last year by the UK CDC Group, which says Nigeria, as the largest economy in Africa, has, quote, the capacity to become increasingly attractive to overseas investment, end of quote. The CDC Group added that going by the recent GDP estimates by the International Monetary Fund, Nigeria presents the potential for other investors to move into the local market. But that seems not to be happening at the speed and size that is required. Joining me now for a two-part conversation on Nigeria's investment inflows and the needed enablers to drive them at the subnational level is Yewande Sadiku, the Executive Secretary at the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. A good evening to you, madam. Thanks for coming on the show.
For having me.
Thank you very much. Let's get started from the low-hanging fruit. What do we really mean when we say a country has an investment promotion agency?
So the primary job of the Investment Promotion Agency is to act as a conduit between investors and government, to help government understand the language, the sentiments, the feelings, and the like of investors, and to carry back to investors information about government policies and the like. So in government, the Investment Promotion Agency is a voice of investors in those closed-door conversations where investors will not be present. Essentially, a conduit, a trusted conduit between both sides, carrying information, carrying feedback back and forth. And the input that the Investment Promotion Agency gives about the sentiments of investors, about the aspirations and wishes, and the pain points of investors should act as reform milestones, if you like, reform points for government. Across the world, there are more than 150 investment promotion agencies at federal and subnational level. In some countries, they have regional, in others, they have state, but most countries have national investment promotion agencies.
Okay, so is your agency a little bit more like a private sector, the midwife between the guys who gather deep pockets flying into the country and the government at home?
So the ideal structure for an investment promotion agency is that it's a little bit of a mott, private sector and public sector. Because you engage the private sector actively, so you need to speak the language of the private sector and act like them. But because you're a government agency and interact with other government agencies and need to unlock opportunities and challenges for investors with government agencies, you need to be a government agency as well. Investment promotion agencies have different powers. Based on the NIPC Act, NIPC is primarily an advocacy agency. So our powers differ from what investment promotion agencies in other countries have. I mean, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Ghana, most of us are defined by the powers of the acts that enable us. By the NIPC Act, NIPC is charged with responsibility for encouraging, promoting, and coordinating investments. We don't have approving authority in relation to investments. We do many things in conjunction with other government agencies. So the powers of approval and the like still lie with the relevant government agencies. Ours is just advisory. So we rely more on persuasion, which means that we're always in the market looking for data and information to use to convince our colleagues in government about why actions and the like should be taken.
Is that the best? Is that the best we can get? Is that the best practice?
I don't know which country has a perfect model. I mean, in some countries, investment promotion agencies actually approve investments. I don't think they need to approve investments, but it's certainly useful if they have sight of investments. We get information on investment flows through central bank or the National Bureau of Statistics, but we don't have direct power to gather. I don't know that direct power to gather is necessarily required. If we get the breadth of information we need to make informed commentaries, the breadth and the depth of the information. I also think that the job of an investment promotion agency is, in many ways, it's about hand-holding. It's not only for foreign investors, it's also for domestic investors. essentially helping the government achieve its own stated ambitions for investment generation. So there's a certain level of expertise that needs to be present in an investment promotion agency. If you can imagine advising government on a variety of sectors and in the levers to pull to stimulate investments, you cannot do it without being sufficiently knowledgeable. So the quantum of knowledge capital, information capital, in my view, already disproportionately lies on the side of the public sector. But knowledge capital, there's a wide gap between what exists in the private sector and what exists in the public sector. Even the appreciation of what that information represents is very different in the public sector than from the private sector. So we're not structured necessarily as optimally as we should be, certainly. I mean,
is it the job of the NIPC or any investment promotion agency in any country in the world to seek for investment from overseas?
So the totality of things that affect an investor's decision are outside of the scope of an investment promotion agency. So that job cannot be left to any investment promotion agency, however strong their powers are. But certainly across all parts of government, they need to pay particular attention to the feedback from investment promotion agencies. They need to use them almost as a litmus of what investors are saying, be guided by the feedback from investment promotion agencies, and ensure that they're appropriately involved in conversations that have an investment bent to make sure that sufficient consideration is given to the investor's perspective, especially for a country that is very keen and desperately needs investments.
That's the point, because you're talking about the enablers for investment promotion to succeed in, especially for a developing economy such as Nigeria.
Yes. For all, I mean, developed economies have investment promotion agencies too. It's not unique to developing economies. The biggest attractors of capital in the world are actually the more developed economies. I mean, Africa...
So China, the US still have
China,
investment
the US,
promotion agencies.
the UK, yes.
So even though they have the deep pockets and they do overseas investments like maybe through agencies such as the CDC Group in the UK, they still have investment promotion agency. Why is it important or more important to have a functional one that functions very well within a developing economy?
An effective investment promotion agency comes with costs because investment promotion is expensive. But best practice investment promotion actually achieves the objectives of attracting first foreign capital and then creating jobs. So investment promotion is expensive and you have to dedicate the right kind of resources to it. Developed economies that are better at attracting capital, even though they're capital exporters themselves, on balance, they're net capital importers. So they're still attracting investments to their own countries, even though they're exporting capital. That's why we have the CDC investing out from the UK, even though the UK itself is an aggressive investment generation entity. So they have outward and inward investment promotion agencies. What we have in Nigeria, what NIPC is an inward investment promotion agency. And usually that's where people start, attracting the right kind of investments to your own country. And then, like all countries, we should have imperial ambitions, which means that we encourage Nigerians, after they've done well in Nigeria, to invest outside Nigeria. It improves Nigeria's place in the world, Nigeria's voice in world affairs, and the seat that Nigeria has at the table. But across Africa, we only account for about 3% of global flows, even though we represent about 16% of world population. But Africa also represents about 3% of global trade and accounts for about 3% of GDP. So in terms of the economic needs of the African continent, in many ways you can argue that we're batting below our weight, even though in my view, disproportionately, Africa is actually blessed with the ingredients that should stimulate the right kind of investment flows, whether it is human capital or mineral resources or agricultural prospects from arable land and the like.
I want to take this very quickly before we take the first break. What are the main drawbacks for direct investment inflows for Nigeria?
Take
it easy.
Sorry?
Take it easy. Let's go through it.
I don't think there is enough time in the day to talk through the issues. But if I focus on what investors tell us recently, I mean, security is becoming an increasingly topical issue. Corruption has always been high on the list. But increasingly, there is also what I will call policy volatility. The speed and the rate at which policy changes happen and the immediacy of those changes when they happen. There's regulatory arbitrariness, which they have long talked about, even where things are in writing about how policies should be applied, that they're applied in reality somewhat differently. And some sort of difficulty, if you like, with getting a resolution of those issues and the speed at which you can get that resolution. And then, inconsistency or a non-connectedness of a number of stated policies and ambitions. Nigeria's industrial ambitions, Nigeria's FX policy, Nigeria's industrialization objectives, Nigeria's interest in developing our agricultural potential. Ideally, across the spectrum of short and long-tenured investors, there should be a consistency amongst all of this.
Okay, so let's just hold it there. When we return, we'll focus on NIPC's engagement with state governments on investment promotion drive. We're back into it. So let's drive this conversation further. The Nigerian Investment Promotion discussion bringing the subnationals into a sharp focus as economic developments are key at the base levels. Yewande Sadiku, Executive Secretary at the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, still here in our Lagos studios. Yewande, thank you so much. Let's move gear a little bit and talk about subnational investment drive. Are state governments in Nigeria really open for business?
Very much so. In my view, in our work with the Nigeria Governors Forum, trying to get through to all 36 states, I believe there is a greater consciousness with the governors about the need for proactive investment drive. So when the governors after the governors were elected, when they had their induction, I was invited to speak to them about the work we do at NIPC and the need and importance of investment promotion. Under the platform of the Nigeria Governors Forum, at the very first meeting that they had, I was also invited to speak to them. Across the country, 26 states have agencies that perform the investment promotion function, even though in our view, only about 15 of them are empowered by law to do so. But certainly, either as an agency, under the ministry, or through another structure, all the states are conscious of the need for investment promotion. What differs from state to state is the quantum, the quality of resources that is attached to that function. In my view, investment promotion is most effective when the head of state or so when I say the head of state, I mean in the case of states, the governors, when the governors see themselves as the chief investment promoter, that the person who heads the IPA is your first assistant, but the governor himself is a chief investment promoter, and some governors do it, brilliantly. Of pushing the envelope when it comes to attracting investments to their state. The person who acts as the head of the investment promotion agency needs to have direct access, if you like, to the principal. So when there are issues that require resolution, when there are knots that require being undone, the kind of attention that it needs to get it done is made available, quickly and immediately. But Nigeria will only succeed, obviously, at this game if across all 36 states, all the governors get it. There's great responsibility too at federal level But because of the relative autonomy that the states have, investments actually are generated at state level. And we believe very strongly at NIPC that we need to work very, very closely with our partners at state level. So we've progressively over the years gotten better at connecting with them, at engaging with them. We're certainly not where I think we should be, but we've made material improvement over the last 5 years. When an investor comes to us with a prospect about an interest in coming to Nigeria, ideally we should pass that information to all 36 states. And I encourage people to investment promotion agencies to compete with each other in the same way that Nigeria is competing with other countries for investment capital. If you have direct access to the principal and you need, whether it's waivers, incentives, or whatnot, it is easier to get them through. If there are challenges with a particular government agency, it is easier to get them resolved if you have direct access to the principal, who can call all the parties that are required to the table to get the issues resolved immediately. It is not, I mean, we're certainly not where we need to be across all the states. But if I think of where we're coming from, you know, where we are now relative to where we're coming from, we're a long way from where we're coming from. We still have some ways to go, but we're a long way from where we're coming from. But we now have a modern database at NIPC where we have details of all our partners at state level. So it is very easy for me to connect investors to my equivalent at state level in any of the 36 states. For many of the states, I also have direct access to the governors. Where I cannot reach the governors, immediately, I go through my counterpart at the Nigeria Governors Forum, who has been an invaluable resource in driving that connection. But the totality of the resources that we need, I mean, if you think about, if I use the analogy of the difference between banking and investment banking, investment banking is the same as banking, but it is such a specialized type of banking that the quality of people, the tools they use, the resources they're enabled with, and the way they're remunerated reflects the fact that it is a finer, if you like, type of banking. We still need to get that sort of consciousness to drive the investment promotion function across Nigeria. We're certainly not where we need to be in that respect yet.
That's talking about the human capital, because over time, nearly every state government arranges what you call an economic summit whatsoever. You've got the bankers, you've got their own investment firm, whatever, agency in the state, everybody come together. So do we have these right enablers for an effective investment promotion at the state government's level?
If a state government is having an investor summit, an economic forum, something aimed at bringing attention to economic development in the state, I think it is a step in the right direction. It is not enough. I mean, investment promotion is not a single event. It's about layering. There are different things that you need to do to continue to send the message to investors. One, that the state is open for business. Two, that the state is receptive of investments. And three, to ensure that investors' confidence continues to grow. I like to say that capital is a coward. Investors themselves are very brave. If you think about the market that investors go to in search of decent returns, but the capital that they come with will find the point of lowest resistance. It'll go where it is courted. It'll go where it is not threatened and where it is made to feel the most comfortable. The biggest antidote for it is confidence. Across all manner of engagements with investors, you know, the message of building confidence of investors in the economy needs to be said not once, but it needs to be acted, because investors don't pay as much attention to what government says as they pay attention to what government does, to how government treats other investors. That's really where a lot of them, you know, draw their markers from and make their assumptions about how they will be treated if they enter that market. So it's a fair amount of layering. It's not a single event. And in my personal view, investment promotion involves all of government. It doesn't matter how powerful the agency is. It is too much work to saddle on the shoulders of one agency and believe that that agency can do it all. Across federal and state, across executive, legislative, and judiciary, all have a role to play, in my view, in driving investment generation.
You are an investment banking professional, Yewande. So what more would you like to see happen in order to achieve what you call an investment facilitating or friendly environment? You say we should act it rather than say it.
So if I dream about the perfect investment promotion agency, it'll be staffed by people who understand and respect data, who know how to gather it, who know how to analyze it, who know how to interpret it. People who speak the language of investors, those with deep pockets that hire excellent advisors and already know a lot before they come to us. But those who run investment promotion agencies also need to understand the fine art of engaging the public sector. It is materially different from the private sector and requires a different set of skills. So you need to have the skills to navigate in the public sector. But you also need to have, in my view, near direct access, as direct as possible to the executive. Those combinations are incredibly important. We need people who understand from when policies are made by government agencies, who can interpret the implications of those policies and quickly prepare papers that speak to how the policies will affect investment flows in the country, that there's direct enough access that you can take that information to all the necessary ears in government.
Thank you.
And that action follows like immediately.
Thank you so much, Yewande Sadiku, Executive Secretary of Nigerian Investment Promotion Agency. Enjoy your evening.